Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Summer School. Today, we have a super special guest, one of my friends, and just like OG business partners. I guess you'd call us partners, but just like friends in the industry, Jess, who started as a wedding planner and is now a photographer. She's also been a florist. I actually don't know what came first, florals or planning, but I think it was planning. And we actually met in Clubhouse, like whenever Clubhouse was a thing. And so we're going to talk about like what we predict to be maybe like maybe we'll say some outs in the wedding industry this year. I don't feel like we'll go like too opinionated, but just trends we're seeing and what we project to see this year and maybe things we might see dying this year. And I just think it'd be fun, it's kind of still the new year to just chat through all those things with someone that's been a planner, a florist, a photographer. I mean, you know all the things. So, yeah, Jess, tell us about yourself and you can just talk about anything. I mean, me and Jess have had styled shoots together. We've shot weddings together. But when she was a planner and florist. So it's been the evolution of Jess.
Yeah, definitely a correction from the beginning. I would say I'm Summer's best friend, one of them, not
Yes.
just friend, unless I got demoted, and I don't know that yet. But gosh, I mean, I will definitely give some hot takes as far as this episode goes. I'm definitely probably a little bit more openly opinionated than Summer, so
That's very true. I'm over here like, don't worry, we won't say anything bad. And Jess is like, no, I got this.
I'm like, wait a minute, who said that? Where did I sign on that line? But yeah, I started out in planning, so I have my bachelor's degree in event planning, believe it or not, that they offer that. And then I've worked in hospitality like my whole life. And gosh, I've known Summer for I don't even know how many years now. Like,
I know, 4 or 5 probably now.
I feel like if we say how many, it'll probably seem like dated. It'll make us seem older. But I've now branched into photography and going into more of my creative, more realm than being in the planning world, just because I've come to learn how my mind works better. And I enjoy it a lot. And I've learned a lot from Summer over our years, months, however many together. And I'm excited to stir the pot on her podcast for sure.
Oh my gosh. I know. I was like, I don't know how to intro you because I'm like, Jess is also just low key one of my like best friends, but also like she's been a planner, she's been a florist, she's been a photographer. And so when it comes to the podcast, like you could talk about literally anything. I mean, I think your florals were like killer. I don't know if you have any interest in still doing that, but I loved your florals.
I think the thing that I enjoy most now is that being a photographer, I can kind of capture things throughout. It's kind of, I always said before, it was like coming up with a vision and coming up with a mindset on like a design or something and then handing it off to someone else to see it through and see it photographed and all that type of stuff. So in becoming a photographer, I found that I had more freedom to follow that design through. So in shoots and stuff, it's great being able to be like, yeah, I can make a bouquet and go take a couple out and do this and not have to worry about, you know, how costly shoots are and all that type of stuff and being able to kind of see it through. But as far as labor intensive goes, I'm getting old and my back hurts. So floral and carrying buckets, probably not in my best interest or in my doctor's best interest. I'm not trying to be in a back brace when I'm 35. So
Well, and even cameras. I mean, you shoot with the 28-70. I mean, that's a beast.
that was your fault. That was your recommendation. So every time I'm holding it, I'm like, Summer,
You're like, I
this
hate
was
summer.
I'm like, this was all you. I always say it's like the most expensive like necklace I'll wear around my neck, basically, just because it's, just 7,000 just dangling right there. But oh gosh, I can't imagine shooting with anything else just because I'm like Summer where I'm just like, I want to be everywhere at once. And I can't imagine really shooting on a fixed lens because I would just be like, there people would be calling the police because they're like, she's a psycho, she's running everywhere and she's in people's faces. I don't know. I don't think I could do it. I don't remember, do you shoot fixed or no?
We have Jake shoots on 35 and 80. And then I have the zoom lens because I do like that. I mean, as the 28-70, I feel like is as close to feeling like a prime lens on a zoom lens I've used, but there still is like a slightly different feeling that happens with prime lenses. And so he does shoot them because I feel like it's good for me to just have that like diversity. So but I don't use them because also I'm shooting film. So like I can't be shooting on prime lenses, like, because I'd probably need two cameras and, two different lens setups. But with that lens, that's the only thing I need. That's literally the only thing I use on a wedding day, unless maybe I have this like cheap 16 millimeter that I might take out for like party pics. But it was like, I don't know, like $200 or
Yeah.
something. Just like a wide angle.
Yeah, I could see a wide angle. I always see those, like, trendy ones that, like, pop up on my feed that are, like, this, like, retro, like, lens, and I'm like, "It's literally $35. Is it, like, a sin to, like, screw this on to, like, a a $3,000 camera body?" I feel like it is, but, I don't know, there's some ones that I'm like, "Oh, that could be kind of fun," but then the hassle of my handling as well, knowing that sometimes I free ball without a lens cap and, like, the thought of taking off my 28 and,
No,
like,
yeah.
putting it somewhere, I don't know, I would be a little nervous about that, but
That's why I like that lens, because you didn't start in photography when that lens didn't exist. And when it didn't exist, I feel like you had to shoot multiple different digital cameras. Whereas now that lens exists, I'm like, I don't need more than one digital camera on my waist. Like I don't need it.
yeah, I mean, I do have because I have my R6 and then I also have an R, but the R doesn't shoot on 2 cards, so I would never use my R to, like so
Get
that's
really
kind
important
of mo
things.
yeah, so that's kind of more of, like, let me take some fun shots and, like, do stuff on that. They're also 2 completely different batteries, so, like, that's annoying.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like I'm not really in the full film world yet, though. I know that film's still, if we're talking about trends, is like the it, but I don't feel comfortable offering film until like I know how to do film. Like, like I forget what camera I have. That's how you know I'm not ready. I don't even know what camera it is. But I have a film camera, put in a whole roll of film, went to get it developed, totally did not come out bright white, like something
Oh
happened.
no.
Yeah. So I'm like, if I'm not ready to take my own personal family photos, and I know how upset I was where, oh crap, these didn't work out. So I'm like, yeah, definitely not ready to do it on a wedding day yet. But hopefully I'll be able to have that one, like, and bring that with me once I'm like comfortable with it. Um, but yeah, that's like I know film is like so major right now. And photographer just posted actually saying like, "Oh, we shouldn't offer film until you know you can shoot it." So that was kind of like a call out for me too. but,
Well, you
but
can always
maybe,
like offer it for free in your packages while you learn.
yeah, no,
Just
for
don't tell
sure.
them.
Yeah, or like edit them and be like, "Yeah, it's film." No, I'm kidding. Don't do that.
That would be a hot take. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just edit them and be like, "Yeah, it's Kodak." Totally. Um, but yeah,
Oh
I mean,
man.
I don't know about that whole film trend. But speaking
But
of
yeah, I mean, I
trends,
guess if we're going into things we think are going in or out, I think we're mostly talking ins. I don't know if I wrote really many outs, but I guess you'll understand that things are out that we're not saying are in, I guess. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Film is one of those. I think it's been in for maybe at least 2.5 years, and I don't feel like it's going anywhere. I don't know if it's I don't know if we're seeing as strong of a push as we have, because I feel like everyone's already converted. Like everyone's using film. It's not like, oh my god, I need to learn this. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, so I'd say it's still in. I don't feel like it's out in any regards. But do you have any thoughts? I feel like it's still
No, I
people are
don't.
still loving it. People still want it.
Yeah, I mean, I hope film definitely keeps coming back as strong as it is. I'm curious to see if it goes to the realm of like getting creative with it. Like, I would love to see people doing like double exposure, like really getting into some of the more, I don't know, like what all those like Instagram guys that are like, I know everything about ISO and like all that. And they're like, oh, I know everything about film. I think those people maybe putting out some things on like how to do double exposure or like do some different creative things. Like once you kind of nail down how to do film, I think seeing what you could do with it would be really cool to see. I sound like I'm talking about like an NFL football player, but like what I would love to see out of these players. Um,
Dude, I
but
just bought a fisheye and film
uh,
that's has pre-exposed light leaks, so it's like experimental film. And
oh
I'm
damn.
excited to go shoot with that stuff because I feel like it's gonna look real weird. The film I'm gonna use on all my cameras. The fisheye I'm just excited for because I think it'll be fun.
No, that'll be really sick. Isn't that like what you did with the expired film like a minute ago? I feel like you would always buy those like rolls of like expired film just to see it.
Oh, I did buy I sometimes I'm at a film store and they're like, "Yeah, like, take this whole thing for, like, $2." I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Because sometimes they turn out and sometimes they're weird, but there's, this company called, Psychedelic Blues, and it's technically called fogging, but he basically, in layman's terms, like, pre-exposes the film to give it already done light leaks and then packages it, makes it his own company. He's probably just using, like I think he says what film he's using, like, cheaper, probably like Kodak Ultramax or something, I don't know, but I bought some he released one for medium format, so I bought, like, 3 35 and 1 medium format, and I just wanna go, like, test it. I'm also releasing for everyone listening, I'm releasing a really cool, educational thing coming hopefully March 1st, but I haven't been telling many people about it in case it wasn't ready by March. And I'm hoping to include things like that. Like, let's shoot this like weird film with me so that you can see like, would you ever want to use this? Because I feel like a lot of people don't take those risks themselves. You know what I mean? So yeah, when you talk about weird film, I'm kind of like on that journey of just weird everything. Like I just want to get more creative this year.
I think that's a lot of, like there's just so many posts on social media now that it really has to be something to, like, stop the scroll. I always say that, like, when I'm going to post something, I'm like, "Is this something that's necessarily gonna stop the scroll?" Not to say that, like, you know, I think of my work one way or the other. I think if you don't fully love it, that you shouldn't post it, but I think a lot of those photos lately, like the film or just stuff that looks different. And I know that's why, like, we'll get into it, different editing styles or like the composition of the photo itself, like so much is changing that you're like, oh crap, that's different than what is right now.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm excited to see that, and I'm sure I will be taking all your tips on how you do it because
Dude,
you're definitely the best at getting weird stuff done. So
the fisheye I bought was only like 60 something dollars. So I'm like, if this turns out cool, maybe we'll start a new trend in the wedding industry. I have no idea. It was because my wedding photographer took a couple photos on a fisheye and I was like, these are cool, dude. Where'd you buy this? And he was like, I think I bought it here. And I was like, fine, I'll take the risk. I went and bought a fisheye that same website sold. And so I'll tell all of you what it is once we know if it is the right one. I don't want to be like, go buy this camera and then me be like, oh, the camera sucks. You know what I mean? Um,
But that's funny though that you bring because I know that when I was at your wedding, it was really cool that you had 2 separate photographers. One was digital that was working with you, and you also had a film photographer, which I feel like I mean, reality, like, people say, like, I shoot digital and film, but they're both their own, like, huge task and undertaking.
mhm.
So, is that something that you would think you might see, like, coming up? Is, like, people are just gonna be, "I'm a film photographer." Like, is this gonna be, like, the new content creator of it all where they're trying to, like, tag on that could be a really hot take, I don't know. Are we gonna have film photographers that are, like, pairing up with digital photographers and, like, doing a package or something? Like, I don't know.
In my packages, I technically say, like, a full film add-on, and they can do that, and we'll bring
Oh,
in
sick.
a person that their only job is to shoot film. I think I've only had, like, a couple people think about it, but most of them are fine with me shooting it because I shoot 10 to 15 rolls myself, and so they would want they would need basically, like, and want exclusive only film photos to even do that upgrade, and when I tell them I shoot, like, 10 to 15 rolls myself, they're like, "Ah, we're good, we don't need someone else," and I'm like, "Oh, man, maybe I shouldn't have, like, bragged like I did," because it would be fun to have this, like, exclusive film photographer there. So I do have an add-on, though, for it in my packages just in case someone comes and they're like, "We love your film work, we only want film photos." I'll be like, yes, I could only shoot, but normally they'll still want a little bit of digital when they inquire with me. So, like,
Yeah.
normally, I'm like, "Hey, let's look into hiring another person, like a 3rd shooter, and their only job would be film." Um, because, yeah, I mean, if yeah, I still feel obligated to be the person that does, like, the digitals they want. Even though Jake
Yeah.
could probably do it, I'd rather just pay to have a film photographer on site.
Yeah. I feel
Um
like I just physically would need, like, 3 more doctors and prescriptions if I only did film because I would just have so much anxiety of, like, this entire wedding is on film, which obviously, like, I know that they used to do that, like, ages ago, but I know that that's something with so many people offering film now. I'm like, it's also kind of scary when you're, like, guaranteeing it. That's why you wanna make sure, obviously, like, you can really do
I
it.
was about to say, once you know your cameras and you have multiple and you're comfortable with them, I have no fear that something won't turn out. Like maybe if I'm shooting on like my Holga, which is like a shitty toy camera, Maybe, a role might not turn out or something will be blurry or whatever. But like, that's one of 4 or 5 cameras I'm shooting on a wedding day. And so same with like digital, it's almost like there's always backups. Like I'm not just shooting it on one film camera. If that film camera died, like it'd be fine. We'd still have film for the wedding day. Um, so I feel like, I'm never actually concerned that something will go wrong film-wise now. I think maybe in the beginning, yes, when I didn't understand, like I could hear issues now that I wouldn't have known about then, if I felt like my shutter was being weird. I didn't know my shutter was being weird when I first bought the camera I bought, and I had 3 rolls turn out black because the shutter curtain never opened because the shutter died on the shelf at the camera store I bought it at. So, now I would definitely know that if my shutter died, I would be able to hear the difference. Even if since it's automatic, it would probably it takes the photo anyways, I would know that it was taking, like, too long to take the photo. Whereas
Yeah.
when I first bought the camera, I had no idea, and they were like, no, I don't think the camera is broken. I think you loaded it wrong." I'm like, that's not possible. This is a point and shoot. I did not load it wrong. Like something is wrong with this camera." But yeah, I'm not worried now. On the note of, do you think basically only film photographers would come in the sense of a content creator? I'd say the opposite. There are only film photographers, I feel like, on the rise right now. And instead of like content creators, I'd say they're like above the digital photographers. Like I'm talking like
Yeah.
real expensive, which makes sense because it should be real expensive because it costs to do film. And on the note of one of the things I have been seeing that's coming in this year is agencies, just like models with agencies and uh, that world of things. We could dive into this is because I do know that there's a whole agency starting. I don't know which one it is yet because someone I mentored is a only film photographer, and she is getting brought into a film photographer only agency. And so I'm like, there's already are these agencies popping up. There's another one coming, and it's for film only photographers. Like they don't shoot digital at all.
Yeah.
So on the note of agencies, I thought that could be cool to hit on. I feel like if you haven't seen it, it's happening. I feel like every time I hop on Instagram, I see some new person announcing this new agency they're a part of, and I'm like, what? Where are these coming from? Is this the future of wedding photography? It could be really cool. Like you don't have to work as much for your bookings. A company would handle it. Yes, they'd get a commission, but we're charging pretty high rates. Like that's fine. Uh, it could be really cool, but I feel like for the people that don't get picked up by an agency, what does that then do? Is it going to be like models where you're basically working for free until an agency takes you on? Like, what if this actually takes off in the industry? How is it going to affect the wedding industry? I don't know if it'll be good or bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
Because how
I
do new
feel
people get a start if that's the world that we embark into? You know?
or how do I exist? Because I can't imagine. I think when we were mentioning about topics to bring up, it was agencies, and I was kind of like, okay, that might be a hot take of mine because I feel like whenever there's an agency, there's a mold, and a lot of creativity in this industry comes from being different and being yourself. So I think that's going to be a main thing in these agencies is what are they providing the photographer? Like, I would love to see if they were able to give, healthcare to photographers, if you're able to be a part of a company and take care of people and give almost like a, a company feel where you can support them. Kind of like, say, if you're an actor, you're in the guild and you get health insurance and all of
I feel
that
like
through
that'd
the
be
guild.
more like associate photographers, like going on someone's team. But these are like just agencies, like when models sign into agencies,
Yeah,
just talent
I mean,
agencies.
I guess, yeah, it's kind of like me debating between I'm just trying to think of what necessarily I know obviously they get good bookings, but for you, for example, I mean, you're already generating that on your own, so it almost comes to the point where are you then giving them the publicity or are you getting it from them kind of thing. That's
From
where
what
it's
I've
kind of
heard
tough.
from a friend that I have that's signing with one, they were able to negotiate like different rates for if the booking comes through them versus the booking coming through the agency.
Mhm.
Maybe different percentages. Because yeah, if it was me, I wouldn't want to split my income that I've worked hard to get all these inquiries with this agency that like
Isn't that
if
like a
they weren't bringing me
fancy
work, you know?
isn't that like a fancy associate though?
No, so the agency, I mean, I guess you could no. So, like, just like how a model is signed under a talent agency, it'd be the same exact
Yeah,
thing, just for wedding photographers. So they would be finding you work, booking it for you, sending the contract for you, and telling you, like, "Hey, you have this gig this day," and you would get,
yeah,
I don't know, maybe 80% of the income, and they'd get 20, but they would manage probably just like how with a model, like if you were working with a model right now for a styled shoot, but you had to go through their agency, like you'd be talking to their manager, you wouldn't really be talking to them, and you'd be negotiating rates and you'd probably pay through them. I'm assuming that's what how these are functioning for these wedding photographers. They're
yeah,
finding them bookings and they're negotiating all the things for them. So for the photographers, in a way, when it comes down to sustainability, like, you don't have to, like, really do much marketing anymore unless the agency dropped you, like, that would suck,
mhm.
like, if they picked you up and then they dropped you, that would be horrible, but you wouldn't have to do any marketing, no emailing, scheduling, like, contracts, proposals, like, that would all be handled in-house by this marketing agency that's gonna get a cut for bringing you the work, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I think
But
I
now
mean,
I'm
it's
like, "Man, how are people actually that connected?"
yeah,
You know
I
what I
think
mean?
it's definitely great in theory, but then you wonder about, like, kind of like the initial stages of Instagram where it's like when there was the first few photographers that kinda started branching into it and blew up and had all this excitement and got all the followers, and then slowly as it got more saturated, same kinda thing, if I'm looking at an agency and they have 2,000 models, who are they gonna be pushing the hardest? Is it gonna be the Summer Grace, or is it gonna be someone
Mm.
like, "Oh, you would love to book Summer Grace? Well, here's someone, like, you can't afford her, here's someone cheaper than her that could still get it done for you." Is it undervaluing you as a creative? I think that's where it's, like, the fine line, like, hell yeah, booked and busy, I love putting food on my table and being able to go to Dave& and Buster's on the weekends. However, if now it's, like, almost bringing back the comparison of having people side by side on a page saying, "Who do you wanna pick?" kinda thing.
What
Instead
I'm
of people.
assuming, because I don't know how these people would be getting enough work to sustain, a whole roster of photographers,
Yeah.
is I'm assuming they are really well connected, the people that are running whatever these agencies are that are popping up. One of them was
Mhm.
a luxury photographer for decades, so that makes sense. She has the connects. So maybe this is her form of retiring. So I'm assuming these are either it would make the most sense for a planner to open an agency, let's be real. But I'm assuming these are people that have connections with planners because in that side of the industry, the clients aren't really doing the searching anyways. And so they're probably connected with planners, kind of like maybe
Mhm.
a modeling agency would be connected with companies or connected with creative directors, and they're
Mhm.
just like bridging that gap. Um, which getting those connections can take years. If you
Well,
wanted to move into that side of the industry, then you could kind of get there if they would bring you into their agency and not have to do a lot of the marketing yourself.
it'll definitely be interesting, especially, like, a shakeup in, like, the industry in general, just because, like you were mentioning with, like, high-end planners. I mean, planners all operate differently, but some of them do operate where they will contact the vendors and book them directly and then charge either a kickback from the vendor or a kickback, like, at a cost. Like, say, for example, they'll tell the client it's 6,000, the actual vendor is 5,000, and they take their percentage of who they booked. There's, like, so many different ways that planner I know, it's kinda like, okay.
That's psychotic.
So there's different ways. So basically, like, the planner could go and contact a DJ and they're like, "Okay, like, we're gonna charge you $3,000 and we'll give you $500, for sending them our way." So basically, like, when that would happen to me, I would say, "Just charge my clients 2,500. I don't need your $500." So, like, now if you have an agency, my question is, are planners going to wanna push that? Because if they book directly with vendors, they're able to have flexibility in what that final price looks like. Now, that is coming from like a is it greed or is it entrepreneurialism,
I
whatever the hell?
think
Like,
based
I
off
don't
of
know.
who is signing into these agencies, I think the planners will have to evolve because most of the high-end luxury photographers that are, like, carving the path right now are signing into agencies, and so I'm like, I think planners will just have to accept it, and who
Ugh.
knows, like, if they'll want to communicate with an agency, but maybe they'll like it. Maybe it'll be easier than communicating with, like, a wedding photographer that's bad at emailing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Wedding photographers are artists. Like they're not the best at doing their business,
Yeah, right. I
you
know
know?
that from a fact. No, and that segues into me in summer, launching our agency. I'm just
So, like, if you
kidding.
wanna sign into our cult, like, let me know.
I live in Utah, so it tracks. Um, no, I
We
oh
can
my
move past
god.
agencies. Give us a hot take. Give us a hot take or an in or an out that you had on your list. That was agencies was on my list, but I felt like the film segued into it.
Oh my gosh.
And we have like 20 things, so if we don't move faster, you guys
I
won't hear half of them.
know. We're too in depth. We're
How do
having
we
too much
rapid
fun with
fire
it.
these? Oh,
Um,
do like style of photos. Maybe we just start with style of photos that you think are coming or going, and we could go through like almost all of them, so we can knock out like 10 on the list.
no, yeah, okay, that makes sense for me. So my first one that I had in there was green photos. Now, the reason why this is so substantial
And you
for
think they're
me
going in or out?
in like I think
Oh,
greens are crazy right now, mainly because people are editing more towards the film aesthetic, but also that like because golden is a lot more out right now and people are editing more true to color, they're pushing their greens in that direction. So before with golden, we couldn't really see greens at all. So greens are making a comeback into the world. Same with blue.
the
We love
grass is
them.
coming back. It's not turning orange.
Yes, the ocean is now blue again.
LOL.
But yeah, so I think I mean if you've seen some of them, it's just kind of like almost like I hate to date myself, but like Gen Z, Gen X, like the new generation, whatever gen we're on now, is editing more like that. It's hard to explain exactly. It's just like the
I
goldens
know, I
pop.
almost want an explanation.
Gosh, I'm like, can we pop one into the but it's mainly just the yellows. It's very vibrant. It's a lot different than what I've seen previously. So I really do enjoy that.
Is it
Um
timeless? Is it clean?
no. No.
Oh.
So this is mainly
Wait,
what
maybe that's the editing style that I put was going out. The photos that you're talking
really?
about might be the same thing that I wrote down as going away.
Oh my god, our first fight. I can't get over this.
Because so there was a big push, especially in Utah, with like cinematic photography, where everything was almost like kind of green and blue and kind of golden, but not golden like in your Earl past trend golden. And I was like, it's so popular, and almost anyone that picks it up ends up becoming like famous. But
Mhm.
I just feel like it's gonna go out because it is not timeless at all. It's gonna become dated, like moody, dark and moody was, or
I don't
like
know if you can see that a little
that
bit.
is not showing up well.
Oh,
For
you
anyone
can
watching on YouTube, that was a hot mess.
for anyone on the podcast, if you can hear that image.
Wait,
No,
Instagram DM that to me so
I
I can
did. I sent
know.
it to you. But
Okay.
so a lot of my colors,
Yes,
like
that's the style I think will be going away.
no way. So fun fact for people that look at my work, I use the presets from people that are no longer together. I don't know if I should say it, but I use their presets. D
I
and
mean, I think
J.
are they still selling the presets? If so,
I
I feel like you can say who
don't
they are.
maybe I think they're on that like preset thing, but whatever. They were Deirdre and John's presets. So then now the Instagram is John's. Long story, whatever. But he's been editing that way, and I was kind of wondering if he like tweaked the presets at all. But whatever, hot take. I just saw the greens, and I found that a lot of people, I mean, heavy traction right away, and I think the younger generation just love that like
Kind of vintage.
yeah, like
I
vintage,
wouldn't
but
call it filmy though. I mean, it's filmy. It's not anything like real film.
well, yeah, I know. We're like, what
No,
is that?
I think
Polaroid?
it's gonna end up becoming dated. And man, I don't want to give people as examples because that would be mean. But there was an era of a preset that was really popular. That's still popular, where it almost turned like wedding dresses like kind of blue because it had really blue highlights. When like vintage was coming in post really warm wedding photos, there was also like warm and aqua blue, and no one knew how to correct aqua blue, so everyone just had low-key aqua blue wedding dresses, and it was a whole stage. Now I feel like this has become that stage, and maybe it won't go out this year. Maybe it'll have a couple more months of riding this colorful cinematic wave, but I think we're going to look back on it in 3 to 5 years exactly how we looked back on every stage of editing that has gotten really popular. Do you know what I mean?
No, I totally feel that. I mean, I'm in the same boat. I think I wrote down some other things that were also trending right now. Like we're looking at like tilted photos. Um,
And I think that's been a thing for, like, at least a year or 2.
yeah, well, I'm dated. I don't know what to tell you. I'm freaking, how old am I?
No, I don't mean it that
28.
way. I just mean I think I think it's still trending.
No, it's still trending, but I feel like that um I haven't seen this as much, but I do see it coming just because we're kind of getting weird and tacky. So I think vignettes will start coming back. I think I don't know if it's gonna be lighter around the edges or darker around, but I think they're
Mm.
definitely gonna start doing a outer contrast or in like
My
just
fisheye is gonna be great then.
that's what I'm saying. I was like, and you're gonna start it and everyone's gonna follow like our little cult. Um but so yeah, so I think what was the other ones that I
Here, wait,
said?
let me show you the fisheye photo so that you get it, and I'll show it for all the YouTube people too. Let
Oh,
me send
cool.
it to your phone real fast. Okay, this is a photo from my oh my god, my phone screen that was so cracked. I ate it going to a networking event the other day and literally like my screen's destroyed, but I just sent it to you. Oh, focus camera, focus. See that? Fisheye? How fun. How fun is that? Okay, camera. I can't get it to focus. So,
So
podcast
that is
people, sorry.
exactly what I mean by a vignette. So called that.
Did you see the one that I DM'd? I DM'd it to you so you can see a better version.
Oh
But
yeah.
it's such a vibe.
No, it is a vibe. And I'm not even gonna lie, that's I'm doing to some of my photos too, not like aggressively because I don't know. It's kind of like if you're too quick on a trend, then it's weird and people are
Mhm.
like, "Ew, what is she doing?" But then everyone like the right person does it and then next thing you know, everyone's doing it. And then you're like, "Oh, you're just following trends." I'm like, "I wanted to do that first. You don't get it."
That's like for anyone listening that shoots film or wants to, the Holga, which is like a I say like a shitty toy camera, but it's also used in like really high-end weddings and stuff. It has vignettes. And so I'm like, that in and of itself could cause a little bit of this push because that camera became so popular last year and the year before. So I'm intrigued to see if we see a lot of that in editing. So literally, I wrote down cinematic going away and moving towards more editorial slash timeless. That was me saying that I think that editing style that you said might be coming in. I think it is. It is in. It's currently in, but I'm thinking by the end of the year it'll start going away because I think cinematic has had its time. I'm not saying it's going away because we all love cinematic and emotional storytelling images, but I feel like we're just gonna see like bold, like you said, with like the tacky and weird. I feel like we're just gonna see like a lot of like bold, maybe like editorial coming a little bit more in, which I love because I feel like for a lot of people listening, a lot of you probably found me when I was doing weird studio stuff, like weird self portraits and cool things with weddings. I remember me and Jess did this elopement in New Mexico and we like transitioned the florals onto like the truck and did like portraits of the couple on flash. Like that was a very before its time. And I'm hoping that comes back because I feel like everyone decided for like 2 years to hate editorial or like posed images. And I feel like it's on its way back in. I think people are going to love like a bomb, solid portrait.
And it's okay though to also admit, like I know people, it's like I feel like everyone thinks it has to be like two completely opposite directions where it's like, yes, I want cinematic photography, but I also want pictures with my mom. Like, like I
Yeah.
feel like it's like sometimes it's like so one way or the other. I worked with a few different photographers like in my planner days and I would ask for like a list of like, okay, what photos do you need to get? And a lot of the times I would get back like, oh, I'm a photojournalist or like whatever the hell, like go off. Like, I'll say the same stuff, but um, they won't have a list. And so then you get to the wedding day and then you end up being like, okay, photos with mom. I'm like, her mom is dead, so let's not bring that up. So it's like I
R.I.P.
know literally rip. I know we want to live so in the moment and I live for it. I love it, but at the same time, we need to be aware and we also need to know what photos they want. Like maybe she doesn't like her dad and doesn't want photos with her dad. Like you can still have somewhat of a guide. And Summer knows me. I'm the most go with the flow person ever when it came to planning. So if I'm telling you we need details in something, then like that's probably important. But I think like you said, like having those portraits will come back because you have couples that got married recently that might be missing some of those images. And then when it comes time to, if unfortunately certain family members aren't around anymore, then they're like, wow, I really wish I had those images. So
Well,
I
and I
think
even
that's
just mean in, like, in the creative sphere. Like, I feel like where people used to go to, like, the mountains, I feel like people might get back into studios and, like, do weird stuff with, like, backdrops or, like, uh, props or I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's gonna come back that people are gonna be down for, like well, I feel like this is, like, me coming back. I'm like, I hope this comes back because I feel like this is, like, who I am coming back into style, but I feel like we're gonna eventually move a little less from the nature world, don't you think?
I think so. I think it's definitely, I mean, maybe going more city, maybe going more, because I think there's so many times, like right now, like messy is so in messy. Like I love everything about that. That you people are very free, and but I think maybe with coming back, somehow having that weird twist on it, I think will be really fun.
Yeah,
But
tell us
yeah.
about Messy. Tell us about what you think is coming with Messy.
Messy, I think a lot of it, I mean, I think I just seen it with a lot of albums where there could be a smash piece of cake on the floor and photographers are like, move out of my way, I'm getting this image. It's
So
in the
true.
moment. It's almost like weird, could be editorial, but also documenting the night and how it
Mhm.
progresses. Because I love personally, like when
Not
I'm
overly
putting
curated.
yes, when I'm putting an album together, like it, yes, I can get photos of grandma twerking on the dance floor. However, like just the vibes of like, like everyone ripped their shoes off and they're all laying in the same spot on the floor, like that, where it's like in the element, it makes sense. It's setting the scene, it's, you don't just have like, this is a hard, I just cleaned my fish tank today, so this is gonna be a horrible analogy, don't mind me, but the fish, and then those photos are giving the rest of the tank, they're giving the aquarium, they're giving you the whole look, they're putting you in the place of, what that like night looked like.
We
So I enjoy those smash cakes, shoes and cake. I just think it's gonna get crazy and weird, and I think people like seeing that because they're used to weddings being so perfect and trim and
I've seen, like, bride, like, on a reception table, but I'm talking, like, real wedding, not styled shoot, like, dancing on a table. I'm like, "You go. This is so fun." Um, I'm trying to think on that note, I have heard planners talk once, and they were, like, low-key roasting photographers for, like, the messy detail photos, and they're like, "I just personally I don't wanna see a photo of someone's, like, very expensive ring in a piece of cake or, like, on a fork. That's weird and not cool." And I'm like, "Hmm, I wonder. I wonder what the client actually thinks." I did take someone's rings once for, like, a nighttime detail photo. I put them in a lemon, and it looked so cool.
yeah.
It was such a vibe, but I'm kinda like, "Yeah, like, was that weird?" I washed it off before I gave it back to her.
I mean,
I
I'd
don't know if
rather
I'd put it in a cake, but, I mean, I love the, like, weird detail shots that are, like, not the perfect like, with the perfect invite, like, I love the ones where they're, like, on a fork or, like, in some like, on someone's eyeballs in a vintage magazine, like, they're just so
yeah.
unique, you know?
No, I like those a lot better, especially, I mean, like, what's the alternative? Like, you're just gonna get a close up of my little hot dog fingers. Like, I don't mind people getting creative with that. And, like, at the end of the day, this is kind of like the whole trend that was happening where you, like, go on TikTok and, like, drag your photographer for, like, trying creative images. Like, just don't use it. Like, if there's a photo of your ring in a lemon and you don't like it, who cares? Like, they
Yeah.
tried. They were doing something weird and quirky, and you know what? Sometimes when I'm working 8 hours and all I had was a chicken piccata that was, like, 2 days overcooked, I will put your ring in a lemon, and I will try to make a cool photo because I'm bored, and I've been here for 9 hours. I can only have so many photos of your Uncle Jay doing the Macarena. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I need, you're reaching the end of the night, you're ready to do some weird stuff, and I think that's where
Yeah.
it's, like, hopefully that creativity comes from, of people, you know I think I had some of you where you were, like, at your wedding and you were laid down on the floor and it's, like, all the craziness, and those are some of my fun ones to look back on because you're not posed, you're just in the moment, um, and you really let the mood, be set, but going into that, I feel like I also wrote this one down, just working off of ambient lighting, I think will
Mm.
be big. I think people maybe pulling away from flash a little bit, and then I've also seen a lot of people also use off-camera flashes, which, I mean, the camera nerds would all be like, "That's been around forever." Well, it's trending now, so, okay. They'll be like,
So
"Oh,
true.
I've been using that forever." They'll, like, go into a wedding with, like, the full light boxes everywhere and have it, all the things. No, they all hate me right now, I'm sorry, but
No, yeah, if this actually did well on YouTube, they'd be roasting us so hard.
they'd be like, "Oh, like, photographers discovered flash." Like, okay. Like, I'm sorry, whatever, who cares? Um, but yeah, I've seen, like, the people do, like, the off-camera squiggles. I don't really get in with, like, the,
Shutter drag.
shutter drag. That's not really me, I'm more lean, like, doing fun ambient lighting stuff, like, trying to pull back in the moment. Then again, my ISO and my editing hates me when I do that, so it's, like, a fine line. Do you have, like, a
I shoot flash and Jake shoots ambient so that we get both.
oh, you guys are just I'm over here, like, I'm trying to do everything. You got the
Oh,
dream team over
well,
there.
it on Prime, so on his lenses, he can push a little better for ambient lighting. So if you wanted to really shoot ambient and you had like a 35 1.4 or something, it would probably feel a little better than your zoom lens would. But yeah, so his camera setup just is more conducive to it than mine is, and mine's a little more conducive for flash. So, and I don't know if I've really taught him that much about flash. So it makes more sense that I shoot the flash and he shoots the ambient, you know? And it definitely
Yes.
helps like speeches. Like, oh my God, it'd be so sad if I had to choose between the two because I mean, sometimes speeches just don't look good on flash. Like, it's not like a vibe where it's a dancing photo. It's like, oh, this just looks kind of tacky, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas
Sometimes
ambient, I feel like you can feel the photo more, you know? You
yeah,
can feel it.
sometimes I'm jealous of, like, it's always great. I know people are always, like, iffy about, like, when couples have a videographer if you, like, don't vibe with them. Personally, I love when they do, like, speeches and they set up that solid light, and I'm like, "Hell yeah, they have perfect light on them. We're good, we're set." So, um, I'm like, maybe I should just do that for myself, but there's, like prefer that personally because it's always tough for me if people are just having, like, a really romantic dance or if people are giving, like, a heartfelt speech and I'm just, like,
Flashing.
Justin Bieber paparazzi style flashing them, like, I feel like, okay, I'm kind of, like I, like, obviously wanna capture the moment, but at the same time, like, I'm really just standing there waiting for them to cry, and then I click it,
100%. You
Get a
also You also mentioned I'm segueing us hard because I want us to get through some of your cool ones. You also mentioned that you think styled shoots might be coming back big this year. I feel like that
oh,
would be fun to talk about because everyone either
hell.
loves or hates styled shoots. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah. Well, I was stirring the pot a lot on this because I got reached out to like 15 times by Wed Vibes. I don't know if you're on them
That's
or not.
awesome. I'm not, but that's
No,
cool.
it's not awesome because
Oh,
each time they ask me, they're like, "Oh, like join our club. It's like freaking $2,500 a month." I'm like, "I am so set. I'm so good." But they also have been doing styled shoots and they're like, "We have two in California. We have all of these and they're all like $4,500." And I'm like, like honestly am flattered for people thinking I have that ready to go, ready to spend. Like that's honestly a huge compliment for me. If it was maybe like 4.99 like dollars, I would say yes, but I can't get over like that's crazy to me. I have seen another few people launch retreats for overseas which have sold out, sold out. Who know like there's 2 tickets left. We don't really know. I've had my fair share of, there's 2 tickets left. Hurry up. Sorry, that's really bad. But it's a sales tactic. Like, come on, like buy a ticket. Um, so I feel like those are coming back, but it's really just kind of like determining what's worth it in them. I think the last time I've seen them be really successful is like people doing like catamaran tours, boat tours, like giving the photographer the experience that they would be shooting. Um, but that said, it's also, I mean, it's such an investment. I mean, there's so much like ads. There's so many things you could do with $5,000. You could vacation and go and shoot people over there. So I don't know. Do you feel like that's something, obviously for the portfolio, I think it's super helpful, but do you think that's something that people starting out who I know listen to you are like, is it a good thing for them to invest in? Like, should they start smaller with like local $100 shoots or should they just bite the bullet and go to some of these huge ones?
I think overall the big ones that cost a lot of money, the only way they would be worth your time is if like the vendors or location were really important to you more than the photos. Because photos will only ever do so much. You're only going to share them so many times. One shoot, in my opinion, is never worth 5 grand. But I think maybe like, 10 $500 shoots, dude, you accomplish the world. If you really want to be in like the luxury space, so you attended one of those, I would just say figure out whoever's hosting it if the people involved in it are actually luxury because someone can create a cool shoot with a cool mood board, but if it's with like a dress that they bought with no name on it, is it going to benefit your portfolio that much? Because if it's just for photos, you can do that yourself
Yeah.
much cheaper, and then you have full control to do whatever you want. So I'm like, the people involved I think are important. I've met so many amazing people at styled shoots. Like I went to so many in the beginning of my career. A lot of the connections I have now that have led to work I have now was from things like that, but they were never $5,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, so I think it really just depends. Like if it's with a certain dress designer and you want to be involved in New York Bridal Fashion Week, like that means that there's like a reason, not just because it looks cool. Because it looking cool does not make it worth $5,000 in my
Oh,
opinion. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
totally, and it's also just, like, looking at the vendors, I think it's really when a style shoot shows who the models are gonna be, I feel like there's a lot of transparency in that and, like, knowing because especially in Utah, I mean, there's so many models that look Utah, and I know through and through that that's not my brand. So I think investing in those is just a bad idea because if I'm not going to be shooting temple weddings or stuff like that, it's just not good for me to invest my time in those. Um,
There's also a lot of really bad styled shoots because people are like, "Oh, I want to do a shoot like this, so I'm gonna charge tickets because I don't wanna spend the money myself, so I'm gonna be someone that hosts styled shoots." And then this, you know, decent photographer ends up hosting a styled shoot, but they don't know how to coordinate a team or really direct anything or run a show, and, like,
mhm.
styled shoots are low-key running a production.
And
Um, and then they're a shit show, and then you wasted all your money, you got subpar images, and you busted elbows with, like, 10 other photographers who all hate you now. Like, those are not worth it. So you need to, like, do your research and make sure whoever you're going to actually knows how to do it. You know what I mean?
no, totally. And I mean, there's even just so many different options out there. I mean, and like at what point is like the profit enough profit? I feel like there's some where I'm like I'm seeing the inspo photos and I'm not connecting the dots on where that price comes from. So I think there's a lot of thought that you have to put into that of like, okay, if this is $1,000 arch and it's broken up amongst 15 people, why am I getting charged 5 grand? Like, like how is the mathing on that? Don't get me wrong, style shoots are really hard to put on, but I
Yeah,
think
I mean, me and Jess have hosted one and we, like, didn't profit, but it was still fun.
yeah, our friendship survived somehow. I don't know,
Oh.
but yeah, I think every styled shoot I've either gone in the hole or I didn't make any money off of it. So that's why when I see some of them, I'm like, they are gonna roll in this. Because if you think about it, I mean, just think of the cost of how to going there yourself, and how much that's going to cost. And then you figure that out and you say, like, I could do this for less than this ticket costs. And it's like, go there, put out model calls, put out Facebook ads, try to find couples locally that you can shoot with, meet other photographers that are there. Because if
I
you
also
think,
like that the one we hosted was at an approachable price point,
yes.
even though we didn't really make any money.
And that's probably why.
I know. But also,
It was
like, we did it
approachable.
for the art, you know?
Yeah, because
Like,
I mean,
go to styled shoots by people like me and Jess, is what we're saying.
when they wanna see when they're like, "I am just doing" like, there's a lot of times
You
I'll
can
be
tell
like,
when people are doing it only for money.
"Yes,
Yeah.
yes," and that's where it's kinda like, I just want to put the tickets up as low as the prices I can do just because I want this to be made and I wanna be able to photograph it, and I can't
Mhm.
put out 20 grand to make it happen myself, so I'm gonna ask other people to come and shoot it with me, which is also like, almost giving up a piece. Like, this is my idea. And you're having other people come shoot it. So that's where
Mhm.
it's kind of, um, I don't know. It's like a pickle,
Well,
but
now it sounds like me and Jess need to host a styled shoot this year. I
I
actually,
think so. I'm down.
a part of my thing that's coming in March, there will be low key, lower key, just simpler things that hopefully people can come to. So maybe styled shoots will be one of them. There's a name for it and everything. But I'm not going to tell any of you this yet because I don't wanna tell you until it's existing, because I don't wanna be that person that talks about a product and never releases it, but,
That's us always. I'm
I'm
always like,
like, "Here's
"New
my
thing
idea."
launching soon." Never
Oh.
launches.
I
Swear
think I
not.
have PTSD because summer school was supposed to launch like 4 years ago. Hung out with Jess in Utah, we had a launch party, things went down, and it is coming, baby. That's what part of the launch is in March, so if you're listening, summer school is actually finally happening. But yeah, I'm hoping that there'll be maybe styled shoots, or as everyone knows that has been following me for a while, we had summer camp. So I'm hoping like there will be styled shoots and they have a different name that's cute and quirky. And I'm not going to tell you guys, but it'll be on the website once it launches. So yeah, it could be fun to have like styled shoots or just meetups. Like I miss the world of creative meetups that used to be a thing in the photography space like 5 to 7 years ago. And it was
No,
so fun.
it weirdly feels like I almost met up with people more during COVID times because, like, we met during Clubhouse, and I was full on just like 24 hours of the day on the phone with everybody,
We
like
were all just lonely.
Clubhouse. And yeah, I know. It was so like, we're so used to going out and being at weddings with 200 people. And then next thing you know, we have no one. So we're like, let's talk nonstop. And then that kind of ended, unfortunately, which was funny.
Let's see what
But
else is on your list. We talked about vignettes. You mentioned that you think adventure elopements might be going away some, but we kind of
mm,
talked on how we both think the naturey world is going away a little bit. But what do
mhm.
you think about adventure elopements, Jess? Tell us.
I think it's
I started in
non-existent.
that world, so
I feel like the photos were beautiful, and that word spread of like, these are beautiful photos, these are great, and people are Pinterest, they were loving them. I also think, I mean, I moved out in 2020, so people were coming out to national parks more as like a need. Like there was the main places, weddings that could be scenic and also happen. People needed to elope. Where could they do that? Wide open space. That's where a lot of the, national parks, not that national parks aren't like big on their own accord, but because of that rise, I mean, national parks made it so incredibly hard to get married in general now that, like, if you're even seen in a dress, you're like practically tackled by a ranger. So I feel like that difficulty added to like, maybe I don't want to do this, or even as a planner, I had people from New York come and they're like, I want to get married in, Moab. I'm like, okay. They're like, oh, we'll rent a car. Is there Uber? I'm like, no, like this is not the place for you. And I think people slowly discover that it's hot, it's uncomfortable. There is no air conditioned bus. You're getting on a van, you're going into the park. Like it's not the image. So I think since that word kind of came out and people were like, okay, actually, maybe I just want to get married close to home. And I think that's one of the things that you mentioned about like more like local stuff or local weddings or home weddings or um, taking that approach better than people having the destination be so far away and making it such a travel and inconveniencing the guest a lot. Not that it is, but it
Mhm.
oftentimes is pretty hard on guests to do that. Um,
Yeah, I actually put so in the almost opposite regards, almost more in like the luxury space. I think we'll be seeing less, but similar for like normal wedding space, luxury wedding space. I think normal wedding space will be seeing less adventure elopements, maybe more backyard intimate weddings. And I think same thing with the luxury space, we'll be seeing less destinations, more closer to home, doing extravagant things maybe on their you know, uncle's property, grandfather's ranch. Like, I think we'll just be seeing a little bit more of that. And I think everyone was kept up because of COVID. So they all just like wanted to go to Europe. And now they're kind of like over it. They're like, I've been to Europe 5 times this year. I want to have something that actually means something to me, like somewhere that has memories attached to it, not something just extravagant for the sake of being extravagant. I think this year you're going to see just like more authentic, real weddings, I guess you'd say. I think that's like the year that we're in though. You see it on social media too with like if anyone's listening to the podcast, we mentioned with social media trends that like comfort creators are in. Like honesty is like weirdly in. Like I think that it sounds weird to be like honesty's in and integrity's in, but it is. And I think you're going to see that in the wedding industry, people having like more authentic, natural to them, even if it's extravagant weddings, productions, social medias, just all the things.
yeah. And so, I mean, in general, I feel like you said, social media. I always look at like who's trending right now, what's trending right now. You think of Charlie XCX, you think of club culture. Like I think that's where a lot of people, it's like the fun and like the look overall, like, it can be, I don't know, like, you think about it like the Britney Spears, it's like a hot mess. Like, that's what I think of. It's like before it was like, needs to be the perfect venue with, like, these
Curated
yeah,
aesthetic,
curated, and now it's like, I just want a
messy.
fun party, messy, I want, and also hot take going into that, just thought of it. I think second outfits are dead. I think they're over. I think for me, takes up way too much time in your timeline to go change and get a second fit. And people are being more resourceful with their funds. And I think having a second look is very expensive. And I think they could save a lot of money by not doing it. That's just me. But who knows? I mean, people could change like 8 times, but I think it just
I
doesn't,
have no
it just
idea.
takes so much
I love an
time.
outfit change.
It
I love it.
takes so, or like the haircut, like, no, like,
Okay,
just
the haircut I think is weird and dumb, doesn't make any sense. I'm so sorry if you listen to this and you cut your hair on your wedding day. I just mean it in the sense, like, time-wise, I just don't think it makes much sense. I think
or
there's
like the
certain weddings.
redo of hair, like people like like they're like had an updo and then they, well, I guess if you take it down, that makes sense. I mean, I might get like, oh, I hate all the bobby pins in it, or you had it down, you
I
want to
love
put
an
it up.
outfit change, though. I mean, I changed my outfit just so I could eat more food.
And I hated it. I'm just kidding. No, I didn't.
I
yours
mean,
was
I had
yours was quick though. Let's be honest. I'm talking
yeah.
about
I
like if
changed in
you,
the bathroom. I think you helped me. We changed in the bathroom in the courtyard.
let me clear, if it's a comfier fit, but I think, you know how some people, like, you would see, like, okay, next thing you know, they're coming out in, like, a Frankie Couture bridal. I don't know if right now in this economy we're gonna have multiple couture gowns, like, back to back. You know, maybe they'll come out in, like,
Honestly, normally second dresses, I feel like the ones I was looking at cost more than my first dress anyways. They were expensive.
that's what I'm saying, like, some
Short
people with
dresses that
those,
are
like,
actually
poof.
cute and not tacky, like, those are not cheap.
Yeah, and, like, if I had to cut corners, it'd probably be that and also a hairstylist to cut my hair in the middle of my reception. Because you know what made me mad? I would come out and Jay would not notice anything different.
Also, how
Ja
much are you gonna cut off?
like, I come out bald. I'm just like, "Oh, crap. Whoops."
For anyone not watching the YouTube, me and Jess have both have short hair. I mean, mine's really long right now, but I need to go get it done. Look at how
Mine
long
was
this
like
is.
that the other
Oh,
day, and then I did it because sometimes the back of my hair will grow a little bit longer than the front, and then I gotta, like, even it up so I don't have, like, a little loopty in the back, but, anyway, what did we
you
miss?
while we're on the topic of like second dresses and dresses, you put that you think ball gowns are coming in.
Oh, yeah, I think the bigger the waist, the better. I think
Mm,
I think there might be, like, some people that do, like, a detachable skirt, but before, I think we saw so many, especially in, like, the Rue de Chine era when everyone was wearing, like, a doily for a dress. I think no tea, I love those, don't get me wrong, but now we're going into, like, the elegant, the classy, some are, like, really basic, like, envision, like, what Taylor Swift would pick for a wedding dress, like, that's kind of in right now. The square neckline, and then also just going into even like a elongated bottom. I don't even know what they call it really, but
drop
a
waist?
drop waist. Yeah, like those are really big right now. I love it. I think it looks great. I just don't want to. I know, like when I eat, I get a stomach, so like I'm not trying to like go back in photos and see that my drop waist is like drop filling. You know, like I don't want to. I just don't
Drop
want
yeah, it would need to be
drop
like a
full.
corset and I would be changing,
we need
you know.
we need to lock that
The
sucker in.
outfit changes will be back if we're doing drop waist.
Yeah, it's like imagine my top of my waist is all locked in, and then the drop is just my stomach popping out the bottom. Like like listen, I'm not trying to be a pop biscuit tin on my wedding day. I need it all sucked in. So if it's a full corset, then absolutely. But if we're really doing a true drop waist, I don't know. I don't
Dude,
know if
I
I could do
loved
it.
drop waist dresses when I was pregnant because you're supposed to have a bump, but I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna be wearing any of these after
Yeah.
pregnancy, man.
I mean maybe for us, like, considering I'm growing my hair out for my wedding, I feel like maybe, like, short hair will be back too, and then we'll be, like, super in. Like, you know, a short hair look with, like, a veil over it? I feel like that
Yeah,
would be so sick. I
I
think
love
those are
that.
also the what are they called? The kiss veils or
Cathedral veils,
yeah, but
right?
the ones that
No?
go over your head.
I thought that was a cathedral veil because don't they do that? And wasn't that tradition that it would be over and then you'd peel
Like
it
a
back
peekaboo
for
veil? Yeah, well, I
for
know cathedral is also just, like, the length, like, they're very long,
oh.
but there's something that's, like, connected on top of it that goes over the face. I've always
Yeah,
wanted to do
I thought
that.
that was a cathedral veil.
Maybe.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I just want, like, if I'm getting married, I want you to search for me. I want it to be a challenge. I
She
just
wants the
think
chase to still be happening.
I just love, like, do you know those, like, shots that you take where it's like you always do them, it's like through the veil? I think
Yeah.
that would be so fun.
So much cooler when the veil's built for that and you're not just, like, pulling a veil, like, awkwardly over someone's head, and it's, like, not supposed to be
Yeah.
like that.
And it's, like, too
Yeah.
thick and you, like, barely can see them through it, and you're like, "Oh, the shot looks great." Just me. Summer's like, "I don't do that. My shots are great."
You're funny. I'm the only reason is I'm looking at our list to see what if we forgot anything. Less stationed weddings. In the production side of weddings, I think we'll be seeing more drapery. I had a wedding last season with a lot of drapery. I thought it was really cool. Then I just went to a networking event with a lot of drapery, and so I'm like, I think drapery is just and I honestly think it makes spaces look so much better. I mean, like live
Yeah.
bands where there's full drapery behind, so good compared to just like a empty tent. Like,
Yes.
I think drapery will be in with the weddings that have the budget for it.
Yes. And I think it's important, like, if you're gonna go that route, like, send it. I think some
You got a
people
full send. If you
yeah,
do
if
half
you
drapery, it's just gonna look tacky.
it's gonna look like, someone had TP'd your wedding, like, there's just freaking streamers hanging from the ceiling. Um, no, but I also think I mean, I've seen so many trends where I'm like, "I love it, but do I love it right now, or will I love it forever?" And I've seen that I mean, like, I've seen people make, like, centerpieces out of cucumbers nowadays, and I'm like, "Okay, I actually it looks great." But then, like, am I gonna, like, get older and then Grayson's
Be
gonna
like,
look at the
"There's a
photos
cucumber."
he's gonna be like, "You're literally had an edible arrangement for your centerpiece." Like, mom, you're so cringe." Or is he gonna be like, "Oh my god, like, your wedding backdrop was a pile of oranges." Like,
I think
okay.
drapery you'll look back on and be like, "Wow, that was beautiful."
Yeah, no, I that's the one thing that I think, like, if it's clean and classic like that, I think it makes sense, like but what do you think about, like, if it's a ceremony? Have you seen those ceremony backdrops where they, like, basically do, like, florals popping out a pile of oranges? Like, are your kids gonna look at that and be like, "Oh, wow, she's so sick and cool," or do you think they're gonna be like, "You got married in front of a pile of oranges?"
Mm, maybe if the
Like, it's so
maybe if
tough.
it like made sense, like maybe if you were getting married at a winery and you had like grapes throughout the centerpiece or something, like
Yes.
champagne grapes or something, like I think maybe where it makes sense, like the one that I had drapery, there also was, I think, like figs and champagne grapes and stuff, and it was at a winery. So I'm like,
Yeah.
this all makes sense. The plot is plotting. But I think when it's like you're just like inside some reception hall and then there's like tangerines, it's like, does that make sense? I don't know. Like,
Yeah, and they're, like, cut open and, like, flies are swarming because it's just, like, fresh fruit just laying
or I had
everywhere.
one with watermelon. It was creative.
No, it is, I mean,
I don't
I
know in hindsight if it'll age well. I'll feel bad if she's listening, but um
No, I mean, it's just it's more so, like, it's hard because like, same with, like we were talking about, like, certain editing styles, like, even some of the golden ones where people are shooting and the sunset looks great, like, in the moment, I have to, like, think of, like, do I like it right now or am I gonna like it forever? And it's so hard to decipher that sometimes
that's
because
one
I
of the
get
reasons I like film, It's just
yeah.
classic.
You're like, "It's classic." But, yeah, I feel like I don't know, that's, like, a huge like, drapery, I think, like you said, but it has to be done right, it has to be done well. I think some people will try to incorporate it. Like, obviously, I mean, the budget for a drapery wedding is gonna be insane, so I think some people might do, like,
That is true.
a pipe and drape, which is just, like, the pipe and whatever, and then drapery over that, like a shade, and then try to make a backdrop of that look. I think some people might do that for weddings.
I
Um,
forget that, like, a wedding with full drapery, like, that's not cheap.
no, oh my gosh, especially since a lot of the drapery we're seeing is like actual like fabric, whereas like people don't think about like some of that stuff's custom. I mean, like when you get in these crazy bougie weddings, like there's some people that even have their like venues like I don't like the carpet, so they re-carpet it. Like there's there's crazy money that goes into these weddings. Um, so yeah, I don't. I mean, I think it'll look great. Fire hazard is what I think from a planner perspective, but that's like the pampas grass of our time. I don't know.
I don't know, it looks, so good though, like, I can't imagine the space that they built that they did the drapery in that I shot in last year without it. Because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, it just would've been so ugly." Like, they made the
Yeah.
space. It's like a whole custom space at that point, you know?
No, totally. I mean, but it's also like for example, when open concept and houses first came out, I was like so hype about it. And now people are like, oh, close everything back off and make it
True.
70s, 80s chic. And I'm like, wait, why did we ever open this stuff up? Close everything, put doors, like, so that's where it's kind of like, in 20 years, are we going to look at it and be like, oh, that's so claustrophobic, like all this like cloth hanging from the ceiling or whatever, because everyone's mind's so different. There could be robots taking photos at that point. I have no idea. But I just like, I don't know. If you think like I do, nothing's ever going to be right and everything's going to be uncool. So just don't think like me. I overthink everything. But
What about we agreed to disagree maybe on cake cutting, but I think we'll be seeing less traditions like bridal parties, first dances. I think potentially cake cutting. I think we'll see extravagant cakes. I don't know if we'll see it needing to be like an announced endeavor, but maybe I'm wrong on the cake
I
aspect. But I think the cake aspect only. I've had so many people literally ditch all formal dances within the last year. And I feel like it'll only be more popular to just kind of like ditch bridal parties, ditch first dances, like. But then
yeah.
you said almost opposite. You're like, I think traditions are coming back because tacky's coming in.
So I could see like a messy, drunk as hell garter toss. Like I could see it getting weird, getting crazy. Like I
I could
just
see that.
like getting those photos of that moment. Because if you think about it, I mean, like after dancing, there's only so many things to take photos of. So I think
True.
people are starting to think like, oh wait, there's other things that we can do that photograph remotely different and cool. And like, I mean, people are going like to nightclubs in underwear now. So it's like that like part of like wanting to hide some of that. I think people are more willing to like, yeah, sure, like, you can lift up my skirt
Ooh,
and do the whole thing and all of that.
I wonder if like after parties will come more in. I've gone to a good bit of after parties these last few years and I've never really seen people post much of after parties, but I wonder with this move into more authentic and stuff like that, if photographers will start capturing them more. I mean, I've gone to a lot of after parties. I've literally driven one of my couples home from their after party because, home to their hotel because they got married somewhere where I warned them, hey, by the way, like I took the bus with them to the after party. I'm like, hey, by the way, like if you go party here, like there's no Ubers. This is a destination town, you know? And so I'm out with them and it's like, of course, yeah, like what are they gonna do? Walk 2 miles? Their friends are, but I'm not letting the couple walk 2 miles. And it was in the stage where we had a camper van. So it was me, Jake, and you know the
Oh,
camper van, Jess. That camper van was not nice. Um, me,
I wouldn't
Jake,
be
and the
jealous.
couple with my dog. Our dog is in the car too. And I drove them back to their hotel. It was so funny. But I mean,
Oh
everyone
my
they were
gosh.
intoxicated, so it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? But
Yeah. I
I've
mean,
literally driven couples home from their after parties. I would love to see after parties come like in. I feel like rehearsal dinners came in last year. And it'd be so cool if like after parties came in this year.
yeah, I feel like, I mean, definitely, and like going off, I know we talked about the garter toss, but also I feel like cake, like there's just so much, like, I could see a wedding going viral for like a groom hopping up and smashing a cake, like just
Mm.
body slamming a cake. Like, that type of messy, I could absolutely see. I could see like cake smash in the face, like brides, like, you know, I'm so hot, I don't even care, smash the cake in my face, and it's just like a crazy fun shot.
Yeah.
Because people like it's what is it, cinematography or whatever? It's like that, but also really pose. Like you want crazy photos, so you're gonna do some crazy stuff to like get the crazy photos of the crazy stuff kind of thing. I don't know. I
Yeah.
could just see that being like crazy, like tilted, like brides coming and she's like, like obviously it has to be like a perfect wedding to do that. I'm thinking they have like a 4-tier wedding cake with those little things on it, like columns, and it looks crazy happening. But that's not for everybody. I know
Jess
that.
is just over here like planning the next like Vogue issue.
I know. I'm like
She's like,
basically.
so like the guy and the girl like they're gonna have this like perfect wedding cake and he's gonna smash it, but the photo's gonna be tilted and they're gonna be like running towards the camera while like freaking out at the same
Okay,
time and
well, you're going to be screen capturing
bam.
this, and you're going to be putting the audio over when someone's wedding goes viral for that exact
We'll be
thing
like, hey, you
happening.
stole this.
Like, look how messy. They don't even care. He's wearing a Gucci suit, and he's covered in buttercream. Like, I can see that being like, wow, they're so carefree. I want my clients to be like that. And then all photographers are like, if you do this at your wedding, I'll shoot it for free. Share, share, share. Like, I can just see it. I would do it.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh.
I'm trying to think. I can't really think of anything else that I think will be in or out. You put wearable florals in church weddings. Do we want to hit on those, or do we want to wrap it up? I feel like now that I said them, we have to hit them.
Yeah, you kind of
But
just hit
you
on them.
think wearable florals, like, like floral clutches? Is that what you're referencing? Or like
Yeah, I mean,
the wristlets?
anything that
Mm.
I've done probably 2 to 4 years ago, I'm expecting to start trending now. Basically, I've already done a floral bag and a floral
I know.
clutch.
I was about to say. I think you already have done that.
Yes, and then whatever. Brides finally caught on. Took them a while, but we're here. I only had to take a 2-year break for them to figure it out. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not that type of person. But yeah, I think any type of like holding it on your arm, like, and I think this might go into like not wanting to be fully traditional and also like wanting to be able to be messy and crazy by having something that just grips onto you
Different.
instead of having to hold it and like you can have 2 drinks at the same time. Like you're
Yeah,
not,
nothing's more annoying than holding a bouquet. Therefore, you just never end up
yeah.
holding it. And then even with like my own wedding, I'm like, I don't know if there was that many photos of me with the bouquet because when are you holding your bouquet?
Okay,
Never.
simmer down because I made that bouquet and it was
I
beautiful.
know. No, that's what I'm saying.
Don't.
Like there should be more photos of it, but it's like, when do you hold a bouquet? You
I
only hold it
know.
like walking down the aisle, you know?
I know. That's why it's so funny because when I was a florist, I would always be like, photographer, like, where are my shots of this bouquet? It's like because it's left
But it's like
on
you don't want
some
to force it to
table.
happen when it's unnatural,
I
you
know.
know?
You're like, where's.
Like as the photographer.
Yeah, I know. I mean, when I get married, I'll be like, yo, I spent $300 on this. I want it to be photoshopped over my face the entire night. But no, I think wearable just for convenience. I don't think it'll be like a wide market thing just because bouquets are already expensive now.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine people, speaking of wearables, I know we said also boutonnieres are out. We
Oh
didn't touch
yeah.
on that,
Yeah, I
but
was gonna bring that up. I think boutonnieres are moving out, but I do think things are still coming in. Like I had a client last year. I think it was like a little Prada pin or something, but it was like a pink brooch, like a
mm,
flower. It was a flower. It was a designer like flower brooch, and he wore that on his collar instead of a boutonniere. And I was like, "This is so cool. You are cool. How are you this cool?" But I was like, "This makes a lot of sense." Boutonnieres are moving out, but he still had a flower on his suit, but it was literally like a brooch, like a designer brooch. And I was like, "Well, this is bomb. This is super awesome." And it was just so much more him than like this flower that's gonna like wilt and die and fall off and
yeah.
not be him anyways, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and it's also tough too. Like even when I was designing florals, like it was like we obviously talked about what the groom wore, but ultimately it was up to,
The
whoever
bro
was planning the florals to decide on what that color would be. So if they're wearing like a navy suit and you have this pink floral on it, it's like kind of
Yeah.
like, and sometimes it'd be so big. Like I would not, I'm like, I never did that. But no, like florists would make them and it would be like a whole head rose. And I'm like, holy crap, this thing's top heavy. Like it's pulling them down. So I think, and I don't really think the guys are going to be mad at it about not having
No.
it,
I
Like,
think they'll be like, "Praise God. I don't know how to put
yeah.
this thing on anyways," you know?
Yeah, right? And like I think maybe like wearables or if even like bridesmaids, like if we still have bridesmaids, like I don't even know if they wanted to do corsages instead of like the handheld ones because those ones always go to waste. Gosh, there's just
I
so
also feel
many.
like corsages are kinda weird though.
No, for sure. I'm just thinking like if the bride has like a purse or something, like that's probably like a cuff or something that's like second nature to
Yeah.
them.
I mean,
Just
some people are doing like
because.
the small bouquets, like the tiny bouquets.
Oh yeah, like the individual flower, like the three.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think
That could
those.
match well with a purse.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. I think it's. I mean, bridesmaids bouquets are always a wash because they go drop it the second they see tequila shots. So they're like, "Oh, tequila, goodbye," and like throw it on someone's table. Um, but yeah, wearables, and then what was the other one that we said?
Church weddings. You
Church
think church
weddings.
weddings are gonna be trending, which is a
So
funny thing to say
this,
might be trending.
I know.
Oh, yeah, let's just be religious
Let's
now.
let's just cancel us at the very end of the podcast. Well, for those who made it this far, I guess get that special tidbit of something to share. But
Spirituality.
spirit, let us pray. No, so I feel Like, I've seen a lot of shoots, and this could specifically even reference, if you are non-denominational, if you don't, have a church in mind, maybe venues that start incorporating stained glass in a way. I just think the lighting of a church, the dark wood of a church really fits that like 70s, 80s vibe that I think is going to be coming back. Just like
Well,
I
I feel like
was
you're referencing more of, like, a beautiful chapel. Like, the churches I grew up in, it would be absolutely horrendous if I got married in
no,
them.
like I'm saying, well, I mean, then again, I grew up Catholic, so like our churches
Yeah.
are
Your churches are pretty.
not to say God picked favorites, but I'm just kidding. But like they're grand. I just think that as far as ceremony spaces, I know we've had. I just think maybe it's even just like having indoor ceremonies in architectural places that
Yeah.
have that really interesting lighting or just like a different atmosphere compared to people that were mainly getting married outside on a golf course or something different where I think that could be something that, like, really amplifies the photos. It's not as, like, floral forward. We're not having huge floral arches in there because most churches don't allow it or venues like that might not allow it, but mainly just the architecture where it's stained glass behind them or it's, like, wooden pillars or something that makes it more, like, interesting. I don't know if that makes sense, but
No, yeah, I'd be here for it. I mean, I think it'll if church weddings came in the sense of, like, yeah, I guess, like, chapels. My mom got married in, like, a tiny chapel and rang a bell. I shot a couple once that got married in a tiny chapel and rang the bell, like,
yeah,
old-fashioned, like, church weddings. I actually had one of those couples, like, a year or 3 years ago, and they got married in a tiny church chapel and then, like, rang the church bell and
I
stuff.
love
I'm like,
it.
"That would be so cute?" Um, but yeah, I mean, maybe interesting architectural places for people that aren't exuberantly religious, because obviously you don't have to be that religious to, like, pay for a chapel, but,
Yeah.
you can't just go get married in a cathedral without
Yeah,
being
yeah.
Catholic.
Yeah, that's definitely I know a lot of people, I mean, Episcopal churches, like, it's just a lot of those, it could just be the matter of people, I don't know, have turned to faith and wanna get married in something of more significance, because I know a lot of people before were very like, kinda like when the trends came of, like, cinematography where you're like, "I just wanna be as free as possible on my wedding day." Whereas now people might be more relaxed and getting back into formalities, doing things that their parents did before, like we see the brides
Nostalgic.
that yeah, like, completely changed their mom's dress, and then they're like, "I wore my mom's dress," and I'm like, "It's actually just a silk nightgown at this point, but whatever." No tea, no shade, love it. But I don't know, I just feel like people are taking a lot of pieces where from, like, the old school style, bringing it in to make it have that meaning again, not so much
Mhm.
Pinteresty, but, like, family or something that's involved to make it, like, more substantial.
Which that aligns with us saying that, like, we think, even large destination weddings might be going away some and more intimate, maybe backyard, maybe church, maybe chapel,
Yeah.
just things that have more meaning. I think, like, I don't know what happened in the world, but I feel like people are searching for, like, a deeper meaning in everything in general, you know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
this year, I'm like, COVID happened, we're all probably just, like, excited to, like, be back out in the world post-COVID, and now we're all like, "Wait, what is life? Let's, like, bring
Mhm.
it back in. Let's, like, find our purpose and our meaning." It's an interesting stage of, like, year, like, you see it with social media, you see it in weddings, you see it in people's real lives, like, people are searching for something deeper.
No, absolutely. I totally see that. I mean, as far as, gosh, weddings go, like, I guess like when I left and stopped doing, a lot of planning and florals and stuff, it started feeling like super performative in the nature of just like it needs to be the prettiest, it needs to be, the grandest, the food needs to be the best. And it was very rare, like, I knew much about, like, the couple. Like, I did like, it
Mm,
was so talked about of what the day was gonna look like, but not, like, what their life looked like or what any of
mm.
that. So I think, by having more weddings near home with family, kind of restoring that, I think, obviously not everybody has that, but I think, seeing people just lean back into, like, what's really important about a wedding, I think hopefully that's like the biggest trend that we get out of this. And I think that's also like where I come in with saying before, like that messy is back in because it's really just being authentic is back in, like being real is back in, and like not feeling like you need to be Pinterest of it all. And that could also be because when Pinterest was popping off, it was 2020. Pinterest weddings, they were all like, needs to be picture perfect, because I think personally we were all at our lowest, so we wanted our
Mhm.
photos and our weddings to look like, oh, we're doing so great and we're doing so amazing, but we're really not. And now, 5 years post COVID, we're like, I just want to be real. I want to party and I want to have fun. And I don't know. That's where that's if I was planning a wedding right now, that's where my mentality would be. So I don't know.
Man, well, this has been a loaded episode of all the things, and I love that we started out with disagreeing with each other on the on the cinematic editing. For any, like, storytelling, moody photographer, I'm sorry if my opinion offends you, but I feel like people lumped me in with that, like, 2 years ago, so I take no offense. But
Yeah, I would have lumped you in with that. I don't judge you. Then again, I was
but
posting
but
like
my digital
warm and
editing is
golden.
pretty timeless, you know? Like, my digital tones are not that different than the raws that I take, so that's wild. But people wouldn't think that. I think people would still think of me as, like, kinda moody, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
I just lived in Seattle.
yeah. The compliment though is I could look at editing and be like, oh, that's Summers though.
That is true. Oh, thank you. You're too kind. Jess is too kind to me. I'll, like, complain about, like, how I feel about things, and she'll be like, "Well, I love your photos." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." If anyone needs a
Yeah,
hype woman, be Jess's friend.
love that
Jess,
for me.
tell people where they can find you and make sure you spell it because I spelled it wrong, like, 3 times trying to get her on the podcast. So, spell it out for everyone. Tell everyone where they can find you if they wanna connect with you after this,
Yeah,
and, tell them anything. Yeah, if there's a separate Instagram you want them to find, or didn't you say you actually changed it away from your business name? I don't know. Tell them your
yeah.
Instagram, maybe your website, and yeah, give it all to us.
Yes. So I changed mine to my personal name. So it's just Jess, Jess, Liz, Eliz Myers, Myers, just because I changed my last name. And my company name is still Authenica, Authenica.co, not com, summer.
And
Um,
like it's not Authentica, it's Authenica without the T.
Authenica, like Jessica, Authenica. But yeah, so I changed mine to my personal name just because I feel like as a business, as a company, and all the work I've done, I mean, my website really encapsulates floral planning. I never wanted to delete my entire portfolio, even though I necessarily don't do all that work anymore. So my Instagram is the work that I'm doing currently under my name, but Authentica is kind of everything that I've done thus far.
Do you mind telling people what your old name used to be?
Oh yeah,
Because people might remember you from Clubhouse or they might remember you from Instagram and might be like,
just
"Oh my god, this is Duet Planning now as a photographer?"
yeah, I mean, you just said it.
She used to be go by Dewitt Planning, so if any
Yes, rest in
Dewitt,
peace.
so if any of you remember that, that
Just
is
do
now
it.
Jess Myers. Has always been Jess Myers, but they are one and the same. So yeah, if you're listening and you knew of, because I feel like a lot of people knew of you, especially during the COVID days of like styled shoots, and you were doing crazy rad stuff.
Yeah,
So
what Summer's trying to say is I'm now irrelevant, but
no, that's not at all. I'm just saying you've transitioned, and what if people don't know?
oh
You
my
know,
god, well, yeah.
they might
Yeah.
as well connect those dots. Someone listening could have totally heard you on Clubhouse and just not known that you like transitioned into photography and now they're
Yeah.
gonna go hit you up, you
Yeah.
know?
You're like, just in case you're wondering who to cancel from any of her takes,
No.
her name can also be and my
Well, I feel like
social is
even I like struggle to like look up your new name sometimes. I'm like, oh yeah, do it.
well, that's
Oh
because
no, it was years of that,
I
you know.
change it every week. I'm so indecisive. But I finally land well, it's because my name is Jessica Elizabeth Myers. So like try shortening that. So now I was like, okay, I'll be Jess Eliz Myers, like just shorten my middle name. And then people were thinking it's Jessie Liz Myers.
Mm,
So and people message me and they're like, hey Jesse. I'm like, hey. Like I just
you're a
given up
lost
at this point.
cause.
I'm like, whatever. I wasn't blessed with like summer grace or like
I will say people have messaged me as like, hi Grace, and I'm like, did you not think Summer was my name? I'm confused. I feel like that's not that weird of a
you
name.
just you change it to like autumn grace. Like
You're
with
like,
the seasons. You just change it.
I was
No.
blessed with a decent name. Good name for marketing too.
Yeah, like I
Summer
mean
school,
like
summer camp, summer everything.
yeah, like some people like I would mention before, like the presets that you like Deirdre Alston, like they all just sound like so like damn, she's an artist.
Or like Jessica Myers. That sounds like an actress. Is it an actress? I don't know.
No, like Jessica Love Hewitt is an actress.
I think Jessica Myers, that sounds cool. It sounds kinda bad. Jessica Myers. Okay, for everyone listening, we need to go now. I'm kidding. Jess is like, "Oh, no."
Oh, no.
Oh, gosh. I hope you guys all loved this episode, and loved hearing from me and Jess, and I don't even normally do things like this because I don't love sharing opinions, so this was super fun, and, Jess, it was great having you on. If y'all like this episode, totally hit me up, tell me to do more of them because this is not obviously the natural content we do on here all the time. So, hit me up, DM me, share it with a friend, and leave us a review if you wanna hear from more amazing people like Jess. Bye, everyone.
Bye.